Prince Andrew, Duke of York, is a member of the British royal family. He is the younger brother of King Charles III and the third child and second son of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Andrew is eighth in the line of succession to the British throne, and the first person in the line who is not a descendant of the reigning monarch. Andrew served in the Royal Navy as a helicopter pilot and instructor and as the captain of a warship. During the Falklands War, he flew on multiple missions including anti-surface warfare, casualty evacuation, and Exocet missile decoy. In 1986, he married Sarah Ferguson and was made Duke of York. They have two daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Their marriage, separation in 1992, and divorce in 1996 attracted extensive media coverage. Andrew served as the UK's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment for 10 years until July 2011. In 2014, the American-Australian campaigner Virginia Giuffre alleged that, as a 17-year-old, she was sex-trafficked to Andrew by the American financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew denied any wrongdoing. Following criticism for his association with Epstein, Andrew resigned from public roles in May 2020, and his honorary military affiliations and royal charitable patronages were removed by Queen Elizabeth II in January 2022. He was the defendant in a civil lawsuit over sexual assault filed by Giuffre in the state of New York. The lawsuit was settled out of court in February 2022. Early life. Andrew was born in the Belgian suite of Buckingham Palace on February 19, 1960 at 3:30 p.m., the third child and second son of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. He was baptised in the palace's music room on April 8, 1960. Andrew was the first child born to a reigning British monarch since Princess Beatrice in 1857. As with his siblings, Charles, Anne, and Edward, Andrew was looked after by a governess, who was responsible for his early education at Buckingham Palace. He was sent to Heatherdown School near Ascot in Berkshire. In September 1973, he entered Gordon's Tune, in northern Scotland, which his father and elder brother had also attended. He was nicknamed the Sniggerer by his schoolmates at Gordon's Tune, because of his penchant for off-color jokes, at which he laughed inordinately. While there, he spent 6 months from January to June 1977 participating in an exchange program to Lakefield College School in Canada. He left Gordon's Tune in July 2 years later with A-levels in English, History, and Economics. Military service. Royal Navy. The royal household announced in November 1978 that Andrew would join the Royal Navy the following year. In December, he underwent various sporting tests and examinations at the Aircrew Selection Centre, at RAF Biggin Hill, along with further tests and interviews at HMS Daedalus, and interviews at the Admiralty Interview Board, HMS Sultan. During March and April 1979, he was enrolled at the Royal Naval College Flight, undergoing pilot training, until he was accepted as a trainee helicopter pilot and signed on for 12 years from May 11, 1979. On September 1 of the same year, Andrew was appointed as a midshipman, and entered Britannia Royal Naval College, Dartmouth. During 1979 he also completed the Royal Marines All-Arms Commando course for which he received his Green Beret. He was commissioned as a sub-lieutenant on September 1, 1981 and appointed to the train strength on 22 October. After passing out from Dartmouth, Andrew went on to elementary flying training with the Royal Air Force at RAF Leeming, and later, basic flying training with the Navy at HMS Seahawk, where he learned to fly the Gazelle helicopter. After being awarded his wings, he moved on to more advanced training on the Sea King helicopter, and conducted operational flying training until 1982. He joined Carrier-Based Squadron, 820 Naval Air Squadron, serving aboard the aircraft carrier, HMS Invincible. Falklands War. On April 2, 1982, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, a British overseas territory claimed by it, leading to the Falklands War. Invincible was one of the 2 operational aircraft carriers available at the time, and, as such, was to play a major role in the Royal Navy task force assembled to sail south to retake the islands. Andrew's place on board and the possibility of the Queen's son being killed in action made the British government apprehensive, and the cabinet desired that Prince Andrew be moved to a desk job for the duration of the conflict. The Queen, though, insisted that her son be allowed to remain with his ship. Prince Andrew remained on board Invincible to serve as a Sea King helicopter co-pilot, flying on missions that included anti-submarine warfare and anti-surface warfare, Exocet missile decoy, casualty evacuation, transport, and search and air rescue. He witnessed the Argentinian attack on the SS Atlantic conveyor. At the end of the war, Invincible returned to Portsmouth, where Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip joined other families of the crew in welcoming the vessel home. The Argentine military government reportedly planned, but did not attempt, to assassinate Andrew on Mustaki in July 1982. Though he had brief assignments to HMS Illustrious, RNA's Kudros, and the Joint Services School of Intelligence, Prince Andrew remained with Invincible until 1983. Commander Nigel Ward's memoir, Sea Harrier over the Falklands, described Prince Andrew as an excellent pilot and a very promising officer. Career naval officer. In late 1983, Andrew transferred to RNA's Portland, and was trained to fly the Lynx helicopter. On February 1, 1984 he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, whereupon Queen Elizabeth II appointed him as her personal aide-de-camp. Prince Andrew served aboard HMS Brazen as a flight pilot until 1986, including deployment to the Mediterranean Sea as part of Standing NRF Maritime Group 2. He undertook the Lieutenant's Greenwich Staff Course. On October 23, 1986, the Duke of York transferred to the General List, enrolled in a 4-month helicopter warfare instructors course at RNA's Yeovilton, and, upon graduation, served from February 1987 to April 1988 as a helicopter warfare officer in 702 Naval Air Squadron, RNA's Portland. He also served on HMS Edinburgh as an officer of the watch and assistant navigating officer until 1989. Including a 6-month deployment to the Far East as part of Exercise Outback 88. The Duke of York served as flight commander and pilot of the Lynx HAS-3 on HMS Campbelltown from 1989 to 1991. He also acted as Force Aviation Officer to Standing NRF Maritime Group 1 while Campbelltown was flagship of the NATO force in the North Atlantic from 1990 to 1991. He passed the Squadron Command examination on July 16, 1991, attended the Staff College, Camberley the following year, and completed the Army Staff Course. He was promoted to Lieutenant Commander on February 1 and passed the Ship Command examination on March 12, 1992. From 1993 to 1994, Prince Andrew commanded the Hunt-class minehunter HMS Cottesmore. From 1995 to 1996, Andrew was posted as senior pilot of 815 Naval Air Squadron, then the largest flying unit in the Fleet Air Arm. His main responsibility was to supervise flying standards and to guarantee an effective operational capability. He was promoted to commander on April 27, 1999. Finishing his active naval career at the Ministry of Defense in 2001, as an officer of the Diplomatic Directorate of the Naval Staff. In July of that year, Andrew was retired from the active list of the Navy. 3 years later, he was made an honorary captain. On February 19, 2010, his 50th birthday, he was promoted to Rear Admiral. 5 years later, he was promoted to Vice Admiral. He ceased using his honorary military titles in January 2022. The action came after more than 150 Royal Navy, RAF, and Army veterans signed a letter, requesting that Queen Elizabeth II remove his honorary military appointments in light of his involvement in a sexual assault civil case. It was reported that he would still retain his service rank of Vice Admiral. Personal life. Personal interests. Andrew is a keen golfer and has had a low single-figure handicap. He was captain of the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews between 2003 and 2004. During the club's 250th anniversary season was patron of a number of Royal Golf Clubs, and had been elected as an honorary member of many others. In 2004, he was criticised by Labour Co-op MP Ian Davidson, who in a letter to the Now questioned Andrews' decision to fly to St Andrews on RAF planes for 2 golfing trips. Andrew resigned his honorary membership of the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews when the Queen removed royal patronages at several golf clubs. His honorary membership of the Royal Dornoch Golf Club was revoked in the following month. The Duke is also a keen skier and in 2014 bought a skiing chalet in Verbier, Switzerland, for £13 million jointly with his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Andrew is a liveryman of the Worshipful Company of Shipwrights, the senior maritime city livery company. In May 2008, he attended a goose hunt in Kazakhstan with President Nursultan Nazarbayev. Relationship with Koo Stark. Andrew met the American photographer and actress Koo Stark in February 1981. Before his active service in the Falklands War. In October 1982, they took a holiday together on the island of Mustaki. Tina Brown said that Stark was Andrew's only serious love interest. In 1983, they split up under pressure from press, paparazzi, and palace. In 1997, Andrew became godfather to Stark's daughter. When Andrew was facing accusations in 2015 over his connection to Jeffrey Epstein, Stark came to his defense. Marriage to Sarah Ferguson. Andrew married Sarah Ferguson at Westminster Abbey on July 23, 1986. On the same day, Queen Elizabeth II created him Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, and Baron Killyleagh. The first 2 of these titles were previously held by both his maternal grandfather and great-grandfather. Prince Andrew had known Ferguson since childhood, they had met occasionally at polo matches, and became reacquainted with each other at Royal Ascot in 1985. The couple appeared to have a happy marriage and had 2 daughters together, Beatrice and Eugenie, presenting a united outward appearance during the late 1980s. His wife's personal qualities were seen as refreshing in the context of the formal protocol surrounding the royal family. However, Andrew's frequent travel due to his military career, as well as relentless, often critical, media attention focused on the Duchess of York, led to fractures in the marriage. On March 19, 1992, the couple announced plans to separate and did so in an amicable way. Some months later, pictures appeared in the tabloid media of the Duchess in intimate association with John Bryan, her financial advisor at the time, which effectively ended any hopes of a reconciliation between Andrew and Ferguson. The marriage was ended in divorce on May 30, 1996. The Duke of York spoke fondly of his former wife. "We have managed to work together to bring our children up in a way that few others have been able to, and I am extremely grateful to be able to do that." The couple agreed to share custody of their 2 daughters, and the family continued to live at Sunninghill Park until Andrew moved to the Royal Lodge in 2004. In 2007, Sarah moved into Dolphin House in Englefield Green, less than a mile from the Royal Lodge. In 2008, a fire at Dolphin House resulted in Sarah moving into Royal Lodge, again sharing a house with Andrew. Andrew's lease of Royal Lodge is for 75 years, with the Crown Estate as landlord, at a cost of a single £1 million premium and a commitment to spend £7.5 million on refurbishment. In May 2010, Sarah was filmed by a News of the World reporter saying Andrew had agreed that if she were to receive £500,000, he would meet the donor and pass on useful top-level business contacts. She was filmed receiving, in cash, $40,000 as a down payment. The paper said that Andrew did not know of the situation. In July 2011, Sarah stated that her multi-million-pound debts had been cleared due to the intervention of her former husband, whom she compared to a knight on a white charger. Health. On June 2, 2022, Andrew tested positive for COVID-19, and it was announced that he would not be present at the Platinum Jubilee National Service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral on June 3. Allegations of sexual abuse. Jeffrey Epstein and related associations. Andrew was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, an American financier who was convicted of sex trafficking in 2008. BBC News reported in March 2011 that the friendship was producing a steady stream of criticism, and there were calls for him to step down from his role as trade envoy. Andrew was also criticized in the media after his former wife, Sarah, disclosed that he helped arrange for Epstein to pay off £15,000 of her debts. Andrew had been photographed in December 2010 strolling with Epstein in Central Park during a visit to New York City. In July 2011, Andrew's role as trade envoy was terminated and he reportedly cut all ties with Epstein. On December 30, 2014, a Florida court filing by lawyers Bradley J. Edwards and Paul G. Castle alleged that Andrew was one of several prominent figures, including lawyer Alan Dershowitz and a former prime minister, to have participated in sexual activities with a minor later identified as Virginia Giuffre, who was allegedly trafficked by Epstein. An affidavit from Giuffre was included in an earlier lawsuit from 2008 accusing the U.S. Justice Department of violating the Crime Victims' Rights Act during Epstein's first criminal case by not allowing several of his victims to challenge his plea deal. Andrew was otherwise not a party to the lawsuit. In January 2015, there was renewed media and public pressure for Buckingham Palace to explain Andrew's connection with Epstein. Buckingham Palace stated that any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue, and later repeated the denial. Requests from Giuffre's lawyers for a statement from Andrew about the allegations, under oath, were returned unanswered. Dershowitz denied the allegations in Giuffre's statement and sought disbarment of the lawyers filing the suit. Edwards and Castle sued Dershowitz for defamation in January 2015, he countersued. The two parties settled in 2016 for an undisclosed financial sum. Epstein sued Edwards for civil racketeering but later dropped his suit. Edwards countersued for malicious prosecution with the result that Epstein issued a public apology to the lawyer in December 2018. Giuffre asserted that she had sex with Andrew on 3 occasions, including a trip to London in 2001 when she was 17, and later in New York and on Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. She alleged Epstein paid her $15,000 after she had sex with Andrew in London. Flight logs show Andrew and Giuffre were in the places she alleged their meetings took place. Andrew and Giuffre were also photographed together with his arm round her waist, with an Epstein associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, in the background, though Andrew's supporters have repeatedly said the photo is fake and edited. Giuffre stated that she was pressured to have sex with Andrew and wouldn't have dared object as Epstein, through contacts, could have her killed or abducted. On April 7, 2015, Judge Kenneth Mara ruled that the sex allegations made against Andrew in court papers filed in Florida must be struck from the public record. Mara made no ruling as to whether claims by Giuffre are true or false, specifically stating that she may later give evidence when the case comes to court. Giuffre stated she would not be bullied back into silence. Tuan John Alessi, who was Epstein's butler, stated in a deposition he filed for Giuffre's 2016 defamation case against Maxwell that Andrew's hitherto unremarked visits to the Epstein house in Palm Beach were more frequent than previously thought. He maintained that Andrews spent weeks with us and received daily massages. In August 2019, court documents associated with a defamation case between Giuffre and Maxwell revealed that a second girl, Johanna Schoberg, gave evidence alleging that Andrew had placed his hand on her breast while in Epstein's mansion posing for a photo with his spitting image puppet. Later that month, Andrew released a statement that said, "At no stage during the limited time I spent with did I see, witness or suspect any behavior of the sort that subsequently led to his arrest and conviction," though he expressed regret for meeting him in 2010 after Epstein had already pleaded guilty to sex crimes for the first time. At the end of August 2019, the New Republic published a September 2013 email exchange between John Brockman and Evgeny Morozov, in which Brockman mentioned seeing a British man nicknamed Andy receive a foot massage from two Russian women at Epstein's New York residence during his last visit to the mansion in 2010, and had realized that the recipient of Irina's foot massage was His Royal Highness, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. In July 2020, Caroline Kaufman, an alleged victim of Epstein, said in a federal lawsuit that she had seen Andrew at Epstein's New York mansion in December 2010. In November 2021, Lawrence Vysotsky, Epstein's pilot, testified in court during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial that Prince Andrew flew in Epstein's private plane along with other prominent individuals, including Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and John Glenn. Vysotsky stated he did not notice any sexual activity or wrongdoing on the plane. Similarly, Andrew's name was recorded on May 12, 2001 by Epstein's pilot David Rogers in his logbook, and he testified that Andrew flew 3 times with Epstein and Giuffre in 2001. The following month, a picture of Epstein and Maxwell, sitting at a cabin on the Queen's Balmoral estate, around 1999, at the invitation of Andrew, was shown to the jury to establish their status as partners. On January 5, 2022, Virginia Giuffre's former boyfriend, Anthony Figueroa, said on Good Morning Britain that Giuffre told him Epstein would take her to meet Prince Andrew. He said, "She called me when she was on the trip and she was talking about she knew what they wanted her to do and she was really nervous and scared because she didn't know how to react to it." He alleged the meeting had taken place in London. In a court filing, Andrew's lawyers had previously referred to a statement by Figueroa's sister, Crystal Figueroa, who alleged that in her bid to find victims for Epstein, Giuffre had asked her, "Do you know any girls who are kind of slutty?" The same month, Carolyn Andriano, who as a 14-year-old was introduced by Giuffre to Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and was a prosecution witness in Maxwell's trial, said in an interview with the Daily Mail that then 17-year-old Giuffre told her in 2001 that she had slept with Prince Andrew. She stated, and said, "I got to sleep with him." She didn't seem upset about it. She thought it was pretty cool. In an ITV documentary, former Royal Protection Officer Paul Page, who was convicted and given a 6-year sentence following a £3 million property investment scam in 2009, recounted Maxwell's frequent visits to Buckingham Palace, and suggested the two might have had an intimate relationship, while Lady Victoria Hervey added that Andrew was present at social occasions held by Maxwell. The Duke of York's name and contact numbers for Buckingham Palace, Sunninghill Park, Wood Farm, and Balmoral also appeared in Maxwell and Epstein's Little Black Book, a list of contacts of the duo's powerful and famous friends. In February 2022, the Daily Telegraph published a photograph of Andrew along with Maxwell giving a tour of Buckingham Palace to Andrew's guests Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey, with a member of the tour party describing Maxwell as the one who led us into Buckingham Palace. Tina Brown, a journalist who edited Vanity Fair, The New Yorker and The Daily Beast, maintains Epstein described Andrew behind his back as an idiot but found him useful. Brown stated, Epstein confided to a friend that he used to fly Andrew to obscure foreign markets, where governments were obliged to receive him, and Epstein went along as HRH's investment advisor. With Andrew as frontman, Epstein could negotiate deals with these shady players. In October 2022, Ghislaine Maxwell was interviewed by a documentary filmmaker while serving her sentence in prison, and when asked about her relationship with Andrew, Maxwell stated that she felt bad for him but accepted their friendship could not survive my conviction. He is paying such a price for the association. I consider him a dear friend. I care about him. She also stated that she now believed the photograph showing her together with Andrew and Virginia Giuffre was not a true image, and added that in an email to her lawyer in 2015 she was trying to confirm that she recognized her own house, but the whole image cannot be authentic as the original has never been produced. iNewsNight/I interview. None. Civil lawsuit. In August 2021, Virginia Giuffre sued Prince Andrew in the Federal District Court for the Southern District of New York, accusing him of sexual assault and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit was filed under New York's Child Victims Act, legislation extending the statute of limitations where the plaintiff had been under 18 at the time, 17 in Giuffre's case. On October 29, 2021, Andrew's lawyers filed a response, stating that their client unequivocally denies Giuffre's false allegations. On January 12, 2022, Judge Kaplan rejected Andrew's attempts to dismiss the case, allowing the sexual abuse lawsuit to proceed. In February, the case was settled out of court, with Andrew making a donation to Giuffre's charity for victims of abuse. The Guardian reported that the Queen's decision to strip Andrew of his royal patronages, honorary military titles and any official use of his HRH title, still stands firm. Criminal proceedings in the United States over Virginia Giuffre's claims are still possible. Repercussions. The 2019 interview was believed by Maitlis and Newsnight to have been approved by the Queen, although palace insiders speaking to the Sunday Telegraph disputed this. One of Prince Andrew's official advisors resigned just prior to the interview being aired. Although Andrew was pleased with the outcome of the interview, reportedly giving Maitlis and the Newsnight team a tour of Buckingham Palace, it received negative reactions from both the media and the public, both in and outside of the UK. The interview was described as a car crash, nuclear explosion level bad, and the worst public relations crisis for the royal family since the death of Diana, Princess of Wales. Experts and those with ties to Buckingham Palace said that the interview, its fallout, and the abrupt suspension of Andrew's royal duties were unprecedented. On November 19, 2019, the Students' Union of the University of Huddersfield passed a motion to lobby Andrew to resign as its Chancellor, as London Metropolitan University was considering Andrew's role as its patron. On November 18, accountancy firm KPMG announced it would not be renewing its sponsorship of Prince Andrew's entrepreneurial scheme pitch at Palace, and on November 19 Standard Chartered also withdrew its support. On November 20, 2019, a statement from Buckingham Palace announced that Andrew was suspending his public duties for the foreseeable future. The decision, made with the consent of the Queen, was accompanied by the insistence that Andrew sympathized with Epstein's victims. Other working royals took his commitments over in the short term. On November 21, Andrew relinquished his role as Chancellor of the University of Huddersfield. 3 days later, the palace confirmed that Andrew was to step down from all 230 of his patronages, although he expressed a wish to have some sort of public role at some future time. On January 16, 2020, it was reported that the Home Office was recommending a major downgrade of security for Andrew, which would put an end to his round-the-clock armed police protection. It was later reported that he had been allowed to keep his £300,000 a year security and the recommendation would be reviewed again in the future. On January 28, 2020, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman stated that Prince Andrew had provided zero cooperation with federal prosecutors and the FBI regarding the ongoing investigations, despite his initial promise in the Newsnight interview when he said he was willing to help the authorities. Buckingham Palace did not comment on the issue, though sources close to Andrew said that he hasn't been approached by U.S. authorities and investigators, and his legal team announced that he had offered to be a witness on at least 3 occasions but had been refused by the Department of Justice. The U.S. authorities responded to the claim and denied being approached by Andrew for an interview and labeled his statements as a way to falsely portray himself to the public as eager and willing to cooperate. Spencer Coven, who represented 9 of Epstein's victims, said Andrew could be arrested if he ever returns to the United States, saying it is highly unlikely an extradition would ever occur, so the prince would have to be here in the U.S. and be arrested while he's here. In March 2020, Andrew hired crisis management expert Mark Gallagher, who had helped high-profile clients falsely accused in Operation Midland. In April 2020, it was reported that the Duke of York Young Champions Trophy would not be played anymore, after all activities carried out by the Prince Andrew Charitable Trust were stopped. In May 2020, it was reported that the Prince Andrew Charitable Trust was under investigation by the Charity Commission regarding some regulatory issues about £350,000 of payments to his former private secretary Amanda Thirsk. According to The Times, senior personnel in the Navy and Army considered Andrew to be an embarrassment for the military and believed he should be stripped of his military roles. In May 2020 it was announced that Andrew would permanently resign from all public roles over his Epstein ties. In June 2020, it became known that Andrew is a person of interest in a criminal investigation in the United States, and that the United States had filed a mutual legal assistance request to British authorities in order to question Andrew. Newsweek reported that a majority of British citizens believe Andrew should be stripped of his titles and extradited to the United States. Following the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell in July 2020, Andrew cancelled a planned trip to Spain, reportedly due to fears that he might be arrested and extradited to the United States. In the 2019 BBC interview, Andrew told Newsnight his association with Epstein was derived from his long-standing friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was later convicted of colluding in Epstein's sexual abuse. In August 2020, anti-child trafficking protesters chanting "pedophile, pedophile," referencing Andrew gathered outside Buckingham Palace, and videos of the protest went viral. In August 2021, royal biographer Penny Junor maintained Prince Andrew's reputation with the public was damaged beyond repair. In 2020, prosecutors seeking access to Andrew made a formal mutual legal assistance request to the British government. It was reported in August 2021 that American authorities were pessimistic about being able to interview Andrew. In January 2022, Andrew's social media accounts were deleted. His page on the royal family's website was rewritten in the past tense and his military affiliations and patronages were removed to put an emphasis on his departure from public life. He also stopped using the style His Royal Highness, though it was not formally removed. In the same month, York Racecourse announced that it would rename the Duke of York Stakes, and Prince Andrew High School in Nova Scotia, which had announced 2 years earlier that it was considering a name change because the name no longer reflects the values of the community, stated that it would have a new name at the next academic year. In February 2022, Belfast City Council and the Northern Ireland Assembly decided not to fly a Union flag for Andrew's birthday. In the same month, the Mid and East Antrim Borough Council announced that they would hold a debate in June 2022 regarding a motion to rename Prince Andrew Way in Carrickfergus. On April 27, 2022, York City Council unanimously voted to remove Andrew's Freedom of the City Rachel Maskell, York Central MP, said Andrew was the first to ever have their freedom removed. There have also been calls to remove the Duke of York title. In March 2022, Andrew made his first official appearance in months, helping the Queen to walk into Westminster Abbey for a memorial service for his father, the Duke of Edinburgh. There was a mixed reaction by commentators to his presence, with some saying that it would send the wrong message to victims of sexual abuse about how powerful men are able to absolve themselves from their conduct, and others arguing that his appearance was required as a son, in memory of his father. In June 2022, The Telegraph reported that Andrew had asked the Queen to be reinstated as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, to use his HRH title and to be allowed to appear at official events due to his position as a Prince of the Blood. In the same month, he took part in private aspects of the Garter Day ceremony, including lunch and investiture of new members, but was excluded from the public procession following an intervention by his brother Charles and his nephew William that banned him from appearing anywhere the public could see him. Andrew's name featured on one of the lists, showing this was a last-minute decision. In June 2022, Rachel Maskell MP introduced a removal of titles bill in the House of Commons. If passed, this bill will enable Andrew to be stripped of his Duke of York title and other titles. Maskell maintains 80% of York citizens want Andrew to lose all connection with their city. The proposed bill will also enable other people considered unworthy to lose their titles. The monarch or a committee of Parliament would be able to remove a title. The bill is due to get its second reading on December 9, 2022. In August 2022, it was reported that the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures had assessed the security threat against Andrew and concluded that he should keep his taxpayer-funded police bodyguards, at an annual cost estimated to be between £500,000 and £3 million. In early 2021 there were at least 2 trespassing incidents reported at his Windsor property, and in December he was verbally abused by a woman as he was driving his car. Following the death of the Queen on September 8, 2022, Andrew appeared in civilian clothing at various ceremonial events. As he walked behind his mother's coffin in a funeral procession in Edinburgh on September 12, a 22-year-old man shouted, "Andrew, you're a sick old man." The heckler was arrested and charged with committing a breach of the peace. Andrew wore military uniform for a 15-minute vigil by the Queen's coffin at Westminster Hall on September 16. Lawyer Spencer Coven, who represented 9 of Epstein's victims, was critical of Andrew's public role in the lead-up to the funeral and stated that he is attempting now to see if he can rehabilitate his image in the public. New York lawyer Mary Ann Wong, who represented up to 12 Epstein's victims, described Andrew's public profile as quite outrageous and harmful for any survivor of trauma to see an abuser or their enablers continue to reap the benefits of privilege, status, and power. Activities and charitable work. The Duke was patron of the Middle East Association, the UK's premier organisation for promoting trade and good relations with the Middle East, North Africa, Turkey, and Iran. Since his role as Special Representative for International Trade and Investment ended, Andrew continued to support UK enterprise without a special role. Robert Jobson said he did this work well and wrote, "He is particularly passionate when dealing with young start-up entrepreneurs and bringing them together with successful businesses at networking and showcasing events. Andrew is direct and to the point, and his methods seem to work." The Duke was also patron of Fight for Sight, a charity dedicated to research into the prevention and treatment of blindness and eye disease, and was a member of the Scout Association. He toured Canada frequently to undertake duties related to his Canadian military role. Rick Peters, the former commanding officer of the Royal Highland Fusiliers of Canada, stated that Prince Andrew was very well informed on Canadian military methods. While touring India as a part of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, Andrew became interested in the work of Women's Interlink Foundation, a charity which helps women acquire skills to earn income. He and his family later initiated Key to Freedom, a project which tries to find a route to market for products made by WIF. On September 3, 2012, Andrew was among a team of 40 people who obseiled down the Shard to raise money for educational charities, the Outward Bound Trust and the Royal Marines Charitable Trust Fund. In 2013, it was announced that Andrew was becoming the patron of London Metropolitan University and the University of Huddersfield. In July 2015, he was installed as Chancellor of the University of Huddersfield. In recognition of Andrew's promotion of entrepreneurship, he was elected to an honorary fellowship at Hughes Hall in the University of Cambridge on May 1, 2018. He became the patron of the charity Attend in 2003, and was a member of the International Advisory Board of the Royal United Services Institute. In 2014, Andrew founded the Pitch at Palace initiative to support entrepreneurs with the amplification and acceleration of their business ideas. Entrepreneurs selected for Pitch at Palace Bootcamp are officially invited by Andrew to attend St. James Palace in order to pitch their ideas and to be connected with potential investors, mentors, and business contacts. The Duke also founded the Prince Andrew Charitable Trust, which aimed to support young people in different areas such as education and training. He also founded a number of awards, including Inspiring Digital Enterprise Award, a program to develop the digital and enterprise skills, the Duke of York Award for Technical Education, given to talented young people in technical education, and the Duke of York Young Entrepreneur Award, which recognized talents of young people in entrepreneurship. The Duke of York lent his support to organizations that focus on science and technology by becoming the patron of Catalyst Inc. and Teen Tech. In 2014, Andrew visited Geneva, Switzerland, to promote British science at CERN's 60th anniversary celebrations. In May 2018, he visited China and opened the Pitch at Palace China Bootcamp 2.0 at Peking University. In March 2019, Andrew took over the patronage of the Outward Bound Trust from his father, the Duke of Edinburgh, serving up until his own resignation in November 2019. Prince Andrew had held the position of chairman of the Board of Trustees of the organization since 1999. The charity tries to instill leadership qualities among young people. In May 2019, it was announced that Andrew had succeeded Lord Carrington as patron of the Royal Fine Art Commission Trust. On January 13, 2022, it was announced that his royal patronages had been handed back to the Queen to be distributed among other members of the royal family. Controversies and other incidents. Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. From 2001 until July 2011, Andrew worked with UK Trade and Investment, part of the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills, as the United Kingdom's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. The post, previously held by Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, involved representing and promoting the UK at various trade fairs and conferences around the world. His suitability for the role was challenged in the House of Commons by Shadow Justice Minister Chris Bryant in February 2011, at the time of the 2011 Libyan civil war, on the grounds that he was not only a very close friend of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, but also a close friend of the convicted Libyan gun smuggler Tarek Kaitouni. Further problems arose as he hosted a lunch for Sakar el-Matari, a member of the corrupt Tunisian regime, at the palace around the time of the Tunisian Revolution. Andrew also formed a friendship with Ilham Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, who has been criticized for corruption and for abuses of human rights by Amnesty International, and visited him both during and after his tenure as the UK trade envoy. As of November 2014, Andrew had met Aliyev on 12 occasions. The controversies, together with his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, made him step down from the role in 2011. Andrew did not receive a salary from the UK Trade and Investment for his role as Special Representative, but he went on expenses-paid delegations and was alleged to have occasionally used trips paid for by the government for his personal leisure, which earned him the nickname Air Miles Andy by the press. On March 8, 2011, the Daily Telegraph reported, in 2010, the prince spent £620,000 as a trade envoy, including £154,000 on hotels, food and hospitality and £465,000 on travel. In November 2020, and following reviews of emails, internal documents, and unreported regulatory filings as well as interviews with 10 former bank insiders, Bloomberg Business Week reported on Andrew using his royal cachet and role as special representative for international trade and investment for helping David Rowland and his private bank, Bank Haveland, with securing deals with clients around the world. The Rowland family are among the investment advisors to Andrew, and he was present for the official opening ceremony of their bank in July 2009. Alleged comments on corruption in Kazakhstan. As the United Kingdom's special trade representative, Andrew travelled the world to promote British businesses. It was revealed in the United States diplomatic cables leak that Andrew had been reported on by Tatiana Gfeller, the United States ambassador to Kyrgyzstan, discussing bribery in Kyrgyzstan and the investigation into the Al-Yamama arms deal. The Duke, she explained, was referencing an investigation, subsequently closed, into alleged kickbacks a senior Saudi royal had received in exchange for the multi-year, lucrative B Systems contract to provide equipment and training to Saudi security forces. The dispatch continued, his mother's subjects seated around the table roared their approval. He then went on to these journalists, especially from the National Guardian, who poke their noses everywhere and make it harder for British businessmen to do business. The crowd practically clapped. Earlier in 2010, it was revealed that the Kazakhstan president's billionaire son-in-law Timur Kolabayev paid Andrew's representatives £15 million, £3 million over the asking price via offshore companies. For Andrew's Surrey mansion, Sunninghill Park. Kolabayev frequently appears in U.S. dispatches as one of the men who have accumulated millions in gas-rich Kazakhstan. It was later revealed that Andrew's office tried to get a Crown Estate property close to Kensington Palace for Kolabayev at that time. In May 2012, it was reported that Swiss and Italian police investigating a network of personal and business relationships allegedly used for international corruption were looking at the activities of Enviro Pacific Investments, which charges multi-million-pound fees to energy companies wishing to deal with Kazakhstan. The trust is believed to have paid £6 million towards the purchase of Sunninghill, which now appears derelict. In response, a palace spokesman said this was a private sale between two trusts. There was never any impropriety on the part of the Duke of York. Libby Purves wrote in The Times in January 2015, Prince Andrew dazzles easily when confronted with immense wealth and apparent power. He has fallen for friendships with bad, corrupt, and clever men, not only in the US but in Libya, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tunisia, wherever. In May 2016, a fresh controversy broke out when the Daily Mail alleged that Andrew had brokered a deal to assist a Greek and Swiss consortium in securing a £385 million contract to build water and sewerage networks in two of Kazakhstan's largest cities, while working as British trade envoy, and had stood to gain a £4 million payment in commission. The newspaper published an email from Andrew to Kazakh oligarch Kengiz Rakishev, and said that Rakishev had arranged meetings for the consortium. After initially saying the email was a forgery, Buckingham Palace sought to block its publication as a privacy breach. The palace denied the allegation that Andrew had acted as a fixer, calling the article untrue, defamatory, and a breach of the editor's code of conduct. A former Foreign Office Minister, MP Chris Bryant stated, "When I was at the Foreign Office it was very difficult to see in whose interests he was acting. He doesn't exactly add luster to the royal diadem." Arms sales. In March 2011, Kay Stearman of the Campaign Against the Arms Trade told Channel 4 News CAAT sees Prince Andrew as part of a bigger problem. He is the front man for UKTI. Our concerns are not just Prince Andrew, it's the whole UKTI setup. They see arms as just another commodity, but it has completely disproportionate resources. At the London office of UKTI, the arms sector has more staff than all the others put together. We are concerned that Prince Andrew is used to sell arms, and where you sell arms it is likely to be to despotic regimes. He is the cheerleader-in-chief for the arms industry, shaking hands and paving the way for the salesman. In January 2014, Prince Andrew took part in a delegation to Bahrain, a close ally of the United Kingdom. Spokesman for CAAT, Andrew Smith said, "We are calling on Prince Andrew and the UK government to stop selling arms to Bahrain." By endorsing the Bahraini dictatorship, Prince Andrew is giving his implicit support to their oppressive practices. When our government sells arms, it is giving moral and practical support to an illegitimate and authoritarian regime and directly supporting their systematic crackdown on opposition groups. We shouldn't allow our international image to be used as a PR tool for the violent and oppressive dictatorship in Bahrain. Andrew Smith has also said, "The Prince has consistently used his position to promote arms sales and boost some of the most unpleasant governments in the world. His arms sales haven't just given military support to corrupt and repressive regimes. They've lent those regimes political and international legitimacy." Reaction to election to the Royal Society. Andrew's election to the Royal Society prompted Britain's leading scientists to revolt due to Andrew's lack of scientific background, with some noting he had only a secondary school level of education. In an op-ed in the Sunday Times, pharmacologist, Humboldt Prize recipient, and Fellow of the Royal Society, David Calhoun opined, in references to Andrew's qualifications, that if I wanted a tip for the winner of the 14.30 at Newmarket, I'd ask a royal. For most other questions, I wouldn't. Allegations of racist language. Rohan Silva, a former Downing Street aide, claimed that, when they met in 2012, Andrew had commented, "Well, if you'll pardon the expression, that really is the nigger in the woodpile." Former Home Secretary Jackie Smith also claims that Andrew made a racist comment about Arabs during a state dinner for the Saudi royal family in 2007. Buckingham Palace denied that Andrew had used racist language on either occasion. Allegations of ramming gates in Windsor Great Park. In March 2016, Republic CEO Graham Smith filed a formal report to the police, requesting an investigation into allegations that Andrew had damaged sensor-operated gates in Windsor Great Park by forcing them open in his Range Rover to avoid going an extra mile on his way home. The Thames Valley Police dismissed the reports due to lack of details. Treatment of reporters, servants, and others. During his 4-day Southern California tour in 1984, Andrew squirted paint onto American and British journalists and photographers who were reporting on the tour, after which he told Los Angeles County Supervisor Kenneth Hahn, "I enjoyed that." The incident damaged the clothes and equipment of reporters, and the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner submitted a $1,200 bill to the British consulate asking for financial compensation. The Guardian wrote in 2022, "His brusque manner with servants is well documented." A senior footman once told a reporter who worked undercover at Buckingham Palace that on waking the prince the response can easily be "fuck off" as good morning. Former Royal Protection Officer Paul Page said, in an ITV documentary, that Andrew maintained a collection of 50 or 60 stuffed toys, and if they weren't put back in the right order by the maids, he would shout and scream and become verbally abusive. Page later stated in the documentary Prince Andrew, banished, that different women would visit Andrew every day, and when one was denied entry into his residence by the security, Andrew allegedly called one of the officers a fat, lardy-ass cunt over the phone. The Duke's former maid, Charlotte Briggs, also recalled setting up the teddy bears on his bed and told The Sun that when she was bitten by his Norfolk Terrier in 1996 he only laughed and wasn't bothered. She said that she was reduced to tears by Andrew for not properly closing the heavy curtains in his office, and added that his behavior was in contrast to that of his brothers Charles and Edward, who weren't anything like him, and his father Philip, whom she described as so nice and gentlemanly. Massage therapist Emma Grunbaum said Andrew regularly overstepped the mark, making creepy sexual comments when she came to give him a massage. Grunbaum maintained Andrew talked continually about sex during the first massage and wanted to know when she last had sex. Grunbaum said Andrew arranged regular massages for roughly 2 months, and she believed requests for massages stopped when he realized he would not get more. Finance and debt problems. It is unclear how Andrew finances his luxury lifestyle. In 2021, The Guardian wrote, with little in the way of visible support, questions over how Andrew has been able to fund his lifestyle have rarely been answered. In the past he has appeared to live the jet-set life of a multimillionaire, with holidays aboard luxury yachts, regular golfing sojourns and ski trips to exclusive resorts. The Duke of York received a £249,000 annuity from the Queen. In the 12-month period up to April 2004, he spent £325,000 on flights, and his trade missions as special representative for UKTI cost £75,000 in 2003. The Sunday Times reported in July 2008 that for the Duke of York's public role, he last year received £436,000 to cover his expenses. He has a Royal Navy pension of £20,000. In May 2020, it was reported that Andrew and his former wife were in a legal dispute over a Swiss ski chalet as they were unable to pay their debt. They took out a mortgage of £13.25 million and were expected to pay £5 million in cash installments which, after applying interests, amounted to £6.8 million. Despite claims that the Queen would help with paying the debt, a spokesperson for Andrew confirmed that she will not be stepping in to settle the debt. The Times reported in September 2021 that Andrew and Sarah had reached a legal agreement with the property's previous owner and would sell the house to pay back their debt. The owner agreed to receive £3.4 million, half of the amount that she was owed, as she had been under impression that Andrew and Sarah were dealing with financial troubles. The money from selling the property is reportedly to be used to pay Andrew's legal expenses over the civil lawsuit as well. In June 2022 it was reported in Le Temps, a Swiss newspaper, that the chalet has been frozen because of a £1.6 million debt Andrew owes unnamed people. Law professor Nicholas Jeandon told Le Temps a sale is in principle impossible, except with the agreement of the creditor. In 2021 Bloomberg News reported that a firm connected to David Rowland had been paying off Andrew's debts. In November 2017, Andrew borrowed £250,000 from Bank Haveland, adding to an existing £1.25 million loan that had been extended or increased 10 times since 2015. Documents showed that while credibility of the applicant had been questioned, he was given the loan in an attempt to further business potential with the royal family. 11 days later, and in December 2017, £1.5 million was transferred from an account at Albany Reserves, which was controlled by the Rowland family, to Andrew's account at Bank Haveland, paying off the loan that was due in March 2018. Liberal Democrat politician and staunch Republican Norman Baker stated, "This demonstrates yet again that significant questions need to be asked about Prince Andrew's business dealings and his association with some dubious characters." Several months after Andrew's controversial 2019 Newsnight interview, his private office established the Arraymore Trust, which owned both Linkels Unlimited and Arraymore Ltd, and according to the Times was set up to support his family. Linkels was voluntarily wound up in 2022. Andrew was described as a settler but not a beneficiary, and did not own either of the companies, though Companies House listed him and his private banker of 20 years Harry Kia as people with significant control. In March 2022 it was reported that on November 15, 2019 the wife of the jailed former Turkish politician Ilhan Baylan transferred £750,000 to Andrew in the belief that it would help her secure a passport. The Duke has repaid the money 16 months later after being contacted by Mrs Baylan's lawyers. The Telegraph reported that the money sent to Andrew's account had been described to the bankers as a wedding gift for his eldest daughter, Beatrice, though the court documents did not include any suggestions that the princess was aware of the transactions. Mrs Baylan alleges that a further £350,000 payment was made to Andrew through businessman Selman Turk, who Mrs Baylan is suing for fraud. Turk had been awarded the People's Choice Award for his business Hayman AI at a Pitch at Palace event held at St James's Palace days before the £750,000 payment was made by Mrs Baylan. Even though he won the award through a public vote online and an audience vote on the night of the ceremony, there were concerns raised with a senior member of the royal household that Turk was gaming the system and should not have won, as he may have used bots, autonomous internet programs, to boost his vote. Libyan-born convicted gun smuggler, Tarek Kaituni, introduced Andrew to Selman Turk in May or June 2019 and held later meetings on at least 2 occasions. Kaituni, for whom Andrew allegedly lobbied a British company, had reportedly gifted Princess Beatrice with a £18,000 gold and diamond necklace for her 21st birthday in 2009 and was invited to Princess Eugenie's wedding in 2018. Titles, styles, honors, and arms. Titles and styles. February 19, 1960 – July 23, 1986, His Royal Highness the Prince Andrew. July 23, 1986 – Present, His Royal Highness the Duke of York. As of September 2022, Andrew is 8th in the line of succession to the British throne. On rare occasions, he is known by his secondary titles of Earl of Inverness and Baron Killyleagh, in Scotland and Northern Ireland respectively. In 2019, Inverness residents started a campaign to strip him of that title, stating that it is inappropriate that Prince Andrew is associated with our beautiful city, in light of his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Similar pleas have been made by people affiliated with the village of Killyleagh and the city of York regarding his titles of Baron Killyleagh and Duke of York, with Labour Co-op MP for York Central, Rachel Maskell, stating that she would look for ways to make Andrew give up his ducal title if he did not voluntarily relinquish it. In January 2022, it was reported that, while Andrew retains the style of His Royal Highness, he would no longer use it in a public capacity. In April 2022, several York councillors called for Andrew to lose the title Duke of York. Also in 2022, there was a renewed petition to strip him of the Earl of Inverness title. Naval ranks. Honours. Commonwealth. Foreign appointments. Former honorary military appointments. Arms. Issue. Ancestry. References.